They had no discounts whatsoever, and the really unfortunate part of it is that it's 8 in the morning and Dollar Tree doesn't even open until 9. So unless I wanted to stay out in town for an hour, I don't have anything to eat for lunch today. Hello everybody and welcome back to Dollar Tree Dinners, and this is week 2 of a series where I'm attempting to stretch $100 to buy my groceries for an entire month. This video is going to cover the entire week 2, so days 8 through 14, and if you watched my last video then you know that my goal for this week was to spend as little money as possible, or basically to go as long as possible without spending money. So it should probably come as no surprise that this week was a lot of using things up, eating through some things, but I do have a few new things that I prepared this week. Just the majority of it is eating through large batches of things that I cooked, like the burrito bowls and the cabbage rolls. I think week 2 went really well, but let me show you everything I ate this week. So on the 8th day for breakfast, I used some potatoes, onions, and eggs along with my prepared tortillas and a little bit of cheese to make a sort of breakfast quesadilla. And this turned out okay, but it did give me an idea for later in the week. Then for lunch, I had one of my leftover burrito bowls and a couple of tortillas to make some burritos. And lastly, for dinner, I made a baked chicken alfredo pasta. So tonight for dinner, I'm going to be making a chicken alfredo. I have the rest of the roast chicken. This was the legs and the thighs that I shredded up in episode 2. I have a box of pasta. I have some alfredo sauce. Usually I would do broccoli with this, but I don't have any broccoli. So the way that I've made this in the past has been the chicken, the alfredo sauce, the pasta, some diced up broccoli, and then like a crunchy breadcrumb on top. Here are the 2 heels of the loaf of sandwich bread that I saved and stuck in the freezer, and these will make an excellent crunchy topping for our chicken alfredo. Now, this is a meal that I used to make often when I was broke. Again, we are trying to make the best and the most use of everything, because even buying breadcrumbs might put us over budget. So I have some chopped up bread. I just kind of loosely chopped it. I have a little food chopper here. This is a hand crank one. Now, I'm not going to pretend like this is the best food chopper in the world, because it is not, but I don't have an electric food processor. I could use my blender, but this works fine. My microphone cut out here, but I seasoned the breadcrumbs with some salt, pepper, and some of my garlic and herb seasoning mix. So that's our seasoned breadcrumbs. Now I'm going to add a little bit of oil just to moisten it so that when we go to bake it in the oven, it can actually brown up. I kind of like that's not like super finely ground. It's like little chunks of bread. I think that'll add a really nice texture. Every time that I made this in my 20s, it would be 1 box of pasta to 2 jars of Alfredo sauce. This is not enough for a whole pound of pasta. So, because I only have 1 jar of Alfredo sauce, I'm only going to be using half the box of pasta. In the past, I have used macaroni. I have used shells. Use whatever kind of pasta you have. Today, I have penne. We are going to underboil this slightly. So it says cook uncovered 10 to 12 minutes. We're going to be baking this, so I'm only going to cook it between 8 to 10 minutes, depending on how done you like your pasta. I do typically like mine a little overdone, a smidge, so I am going to go for like somewhere between 8 and 9 minutes. Before you drain your pasta, set aside about half a cup of the cooking water. So now, into our pot goes our drained pasta. So again, this is about half a pound or about 8 ounces of pasta. I'm gonna add in that entire jar of Alfredo sauce, and this is where the pasta water is gonna come into play. I'm gonna use that to empty the rest of the sauce out of the jar. There's still a little bit in there. You can add a little bit more water. Just try to get every drop. Then we're also going to add in our shredded chicken. This was 2 legs, or this was 2 thighs and 1 leg. Now again, if you have broccoli, that is the perfect addition. That is normally what I would do, but I just don't have any, and I'm trying not to spend any money this week. Feel free to season up the sauce a little bit too, because you know, it's just a jarred Alfredo sauce, so you can add more stuff to it. I only have a couple of things to work with: pepper, salt, garlic, and herb. And now that's going to go into a baking dish, and I'm going to top it with our seasoned breadcrumbs from the heels of our bread. bake that at 400 degrees, just until that top is nice and brown. That only took about 15 minutes. Again, we're just trying to brown the breadcrumbs on top. Got some green beans on the side here, just a can of green beans. And we're gonna get 4 portions out of this. So we were able to take 3 pieces of chicken and now we have 4 new meals out of it. Which is a great way to repurpose leftovers and stretch it a little bit further. Because if I had just eaten that chicken plain, it would have only been, you know, 3 meals on its own. And that is 1/4 of the pasta. So these are really hefty servings too. I'm gonna shimmy that over so I can make room for my green beans. I am a fiend for canned green beans. They've always been one of my favorite vegetables, even when I was a kid. I prefer canned green beans to frozen or fresh green beans, so I have no problem with buying the cheap of the cheap when it comes to green beans. Go and grab ourselves a nice bite. That's better than I used to make it. I didn't used to add chicken to it, and I added roasted chicken to it, which has a really nice flavor. The breadcrumb topping that I put on top kind of tastes like garlic bread because we seasoned it with some garlic and herb. Plus we added some extra seasonings into the alfredo sauce. This used to be a lunch that I would prep when I used to work at Walgreens. So I started working at Walgreens as a photo lab technician, and then I became a pharmacy technician. But again, I was in my 20s. I didn't really know how to cook. This was something I could make and bring with me as a cheap and affordable lunch. Before that, I worked at Taco Bell, so I didn't need to pack a lunch back then. Because when you work in a restaurant, you usually get free food from the restaurant. So Walgreens was my first job that I had where I had to pack my own lunch. Another thing I would make pretty frequently was like a chicken tortilla soup. It was a recipe that one of my professors when I was in school had given to me. And everything that I'm talking about right now are all recipes that I made until I could not even stand to look at them anymore. Like, they were the only things I knew how to cook, and I would cook them so frequently until I just was sick of them. And then I'd have to find another recipe that I enjoyed and then cook that until I was sick of that too. But as you can see, these are massive portions of pasta. In this other compartment here goes our green beans. 1 can of green beans really is not, I probably should leave that one empty. 1 can of green beans really is not 4 servings, it's more like 3. So again, having an understanding of what you can get out of something makes it easier to plan around. So now I know I'm either gonna have this one without a vegetable or I'm gonna need a different vegetable to replace the green beans. Since I only have 2 servings of green beans, that this would be the perfect portion for the squirrel fund. So I'm gonna put that in its own container and put it in the freezer. And I can add that to the squirrel fund for week 4. So I have my dinner tonight, which is fantastic. I've just been munching on it while I've been putting stuff away, but I have 2 for dinner this week and then 1 for dinner in a future week. On the 9th day, I went back to my potato and egg breakfast skillet because this is definitely my favorite breakfast that I have made of this entire series. I did finish off the final burrito bowl. I just had it as a bowl without tortillas, and then for dinner I had some of my leftover alfredo pasta and green beans. It does make me sad that this is pretty much the last of my eggs. This is the breakfast that's getting me through. And I just checked my drawer and I had 1 more packet of ketchup. I really thought I only had 2 in there, but I had 1 kind of tucked away, hidden. It's like a present from past me to current me. And I have decided to freeze the rest of my cheese. So again, there's about 6 ounces of cheese in here, but I'm gonna save that for week 3. On the 10th day, I had oatmeal with peanut butter added to it. For lunch, I had leftover cabbage rolls, and for dinner, I had leftover chicken alfredo pasta. Good morning. Today is day 10. I only have 1 egg left, or I'm mostly out of eggs. So we're gonna switch over from the potato and egg breakfast now to an oatmeal breakfast. I'm probably gonna have this for breakfast today and tomorrow because the following day is Sunday. And several of you mentioned that Sunday is the best day to go to the grocery store for the deals. I'm thinking that Sunday is going to be the day that I get up early and go to the grocery store and try to see if I can get some bargains. And then I can also probably get some other stuff for breakfast. I do have 4 packets of oatmeal. I just used 1, so that means I have 3 more. So again, this will probably be my breakfast today and tomorrow. I'm not the biggest fan of oatmeal, so it's not something that I really gravitate towards as a breakfast, but it is a really cheap breakfast. It has a lot of fiber in it. It's not terrible, it's just not my favorite. I much prefer the breakfast, like the potato and eggs, and I'm thinking that I might try to make some breakfast tacos this week, or breakfast burritos. If I can get like some sausage on markdown, that would be great. In episode 1, I measured these. I know they're about 1/3 of a cup, so I did 1/3 of a cup. I did 1 packet and then I added 1/3 of a cup of plain oatmeal and then about a tablespoon of peanut butter. And then I don't have any milk or anything to add to it at this point, so I'm just gonna go with hot water. And I prefer to just add hot water to my oatmeal as opposed to microwaving it, because I still prefer to have some of the oat texture. I find that when you microwave it, it just kind of turns into mush, and I don't particularly like that. Now, if I had some banana, that would be a fabulous addition to that, but I probably won't have any more bananas until I go back to the store on Sunday. So for now, just oatmeal with peanut butter. So we are officially out of burrito bowls, so I'm gonna switch over to having my leftover cabbage rolls for lunch instead. Also a really great option to make if you need a lunch to bring with you to work, because you can just reheat them. They're very filling. Let's get all that sauce out of there. I didn't have any cabbage rolls yesterday because I had the burrito bowl for lunch and I have the pasta for dinner. So I feel like these taste even better because I haven't had them in a day, but I'm actually kind of obsessed with them. I think I will be sad when they're gone, but I do still have some in the freezer. It'll be another situation where I'm giving my future self a present from my past self. And now we are on day 11. I started my morning with my peanut butter oatmeal. For lunch, I had my last 2 cabbage rolls. And for dinner, I finally got around to cooking this pork loin that I got for under $3. I cannot believe we're already 1/3 of the way through the month. It's day 11. I am finally gonna cook this barbecue pork loin that I got for under $3. This is my last cut of meat that I got on clearance, which is why I keep saying that I'm going back to the store to try to get a couple more clearance meats tomorrow, which is Sunday. But this is 1.5 pounds, so it should realistically make anywhere from 6 to 8 servings. The problem is I haven't been back to the store, so I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do for sides to go along with it. I do have this can of pork and beans, which I think is a really good side to go with a barbecue pork loin. And I still have 2 potatoes left, so I was also thinking it might be kind of fun to make potato wedges or french fries, at least for today's dinner. And then when I go to the store tomorrow, maybe I can plan some other sides to go along with this. These potatoes are on their way out, so I need to use them up, and I don't have any eggs to use them for breakfast, so I might as well use them with dinner. And the instructions on this, it has conventional oven and grilling instructions. So the oven instruction says 350, cover a baking sheet with aluminum foil, remove the product and place on baking sheet. Cook for 30 to 35 minutes or until the internal temperature reaches 145 degrees. Remove from the oven and allow to rest for 5 minutes before slicing. I am hoping that this pork loin has enough flavor on its own. I debated buying barbecue sauce and I ultimately didn't, and I'm just hoping that I don't regret that decision. I also recently learned that when it comes to aluminum foil, the dull side is the side that has a non-stick coating kind of built into it. So you should always be using the dull side up. If I had gotten barbecue sauce, I was just gonna get a bottle of barbecue sauce at Dollar Tree. What I really wanna do with this is potentially make it into sandwiches, like some barbecue pork sandwiches. So once I see what this tastes like tonight, I can figure out if the sandwich is a feasible option or not. It does smell really good. I am so happy. That is such a big cut of meat for under $3. Fantastic. So now the other thing, again, these potatoes are starting to turn green, so I am gonna peel them first. I mean, if you consider the fact that I am a good bit of the ways through week 2 and I haven't spent any money so far this week, so exciting, it definitely frees up a good bit of the budget to buy other things potentially. And I feel like at this point I have almost an entire week of food in the freezer alone. So we may even be able to stretch this $100 beyond week 4, but I don't want to get my hopes up with that because I still want the meals to be interesting and dynamic, and I still want them to be filling and realistic. So this depletes my entire 5-pound bag of potatoes, which is fine. I'm gonna check and see if potatoes go on sale so I can potentially get some extra ones. because that definitely has been my favorite part of this week, has been potatoes. There are a lot of different ways to make potato wedges. Usually I would do a method where I parboil them first, but I don't really have the patience for that today, which is fine. I'm just gonna drizzle them with some oil. I'm gonna use some of my garlic and herb seasoning on them, along with some salt and pepper. Cajun seasoning would probably be the best seasoning to use on them. That's usually what I use. That Dollar Tree Cajun seasoning, that's the same Kingsford but Cajun. I was gonna try to squeeze it all in one pan, but I don't wanna crowd that pan. I'll just do a separate pan for the wedges. I'm gonna get the wedges going first because they're gonna take the longest amount of time to cook. I'm gonna put it on the bottom rack and do 15 to 20 minutes. It's probably been closer to 20 to 25 minutes because I was in the middle of something, but there's no shame in extra crispy potato wedges, right? So let's check and see how they're browning. Hopefully I can just get up under them and flip them. This is what I was talking about. No matter how much oil you use with potatoes, sometimes they just stick. I don't think these are gonna be super crispy though. They are gold potatoes, so they're a little bit more of a waxy potato than say a russet potato, which probably isn't the ideal potato type for making wedges, but they'll still taste good even if they're not as crispy as I would like them to be. I'm gonna put them back in the oven, but I'm also gonna toss the pork loin in there too. Let's keep those on the bottom rack. So 30 to 35 minutes on the pork loin. And let me let this rest on the counter for, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes or so before I carve it. Give it a try and see if I feel like I need to see if I can get away with making sandwiches out of this. So bread and barbecue sauce. It does seem pretty tender. It does smell very good. It does look very good. I am excited. Hopefully it has a good smoky barbecue flavor to it. And I really think it would be nice to be able to make some sandwiches out of this. And then we've got our potato wedges. Again, I'm not doing a vegetable with this tonight. Just gonna stick with the pork and the potatoes. We've got our dinner for day 11. Again, haven't spent any money at all so far this week. Intending to get up early and go to Food Lion and see about getting some markdowns like this pork loin that I got for under $3. This pork loin is very tender. It's very juicy. It has a nice, very subtle barbecue flavor to it. The barbecue is mostly from that dry rub that's kind of on the outside. It's a little sweet, a little smoky. I do think it would benefit from some barbecue sauce, and I do think it'll make a great sandwich. What I'll probably end up doing is thin slicing it. After it's cooled, I should be able to carve it a little bit thinner, and then I can turn that into some sandwiches. But it's good, and these potato wedges are perfectly crispy. All right, let's pack up the rest of this pork loin just in a container. And of course, any juice that kind of came off on your cutting board, I'm going to carefully lift this up and make sure that we save all of that. Not bad for day 11. Early bird gets the worm, right? Go ahead. Cross the street, baby. I'm not going anywhere. You're good. Go ahead. Go ahead. There we go. Is that your only baby, Mama? Oh, nope. Oh, nope. We got another one. Oh my goodness. Oh, there's so many more. Okay. I'm just gonna sit here. You guys are good. Aww. How fun. Is that the last one? Looks like it. Okay. Good job, Mama. 11, 12.
And here we go. I hope you're hungry for nothing.
On a Sunday at 7 a.m., Food Lion had no markdowns. Zero, zilch, nada. Even this like ground beef that was very clearly like brownish gray was not marked down. Like, this is crazy. I don't know. I expected to walk into a wall of markdowns and be like, oh, I've been missing out on so many good deals. But getting up at 7 a.m. to go to the grocery store and seeing nothing just reaffirmed the fact that I'm not a morning person and I will never do this again. So I ended up spending the next 45 minutes kind of meandering around the store, being completely indecisive. They had these mandarin oranges on sale, and I thought about getting a bag of those, but I'd have to eat a lot of mandarin oranges to go through that. Then I was like, well, maybe I'll get a pineapple since they're still $1.99, but I didn't. Potatoes weren't really on sale this week either. The best deal was probably this 5-pound bag of russet potatoes for $3.99. So I was like, while I'm here, I might as well get some eggs. Again, no good sales on eggs, and the price did go up a little bit since the last time I got them. It's now $3.19 for 18 eggs, when last time it was $2.99. But I had my heart set on making something kind of like these frozen breakfast burritos. These are just egg, sausage, and potato burritos. And that's what I wanted to make for breakfast this week. So I went back to the potatoes and I tried to pick up a 5-pound bag of russet potatoes, but as I sat there staring at my cart and I was like, I'm about to spend $7 on some eggs and potatoes, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. This other little bag of fingerling potatoes is buy one get one free, which means it's half price, so it's $1. And I figure I can at least get this to hold me over until their next sales cycle starts, and maybe potatoes will be on a better discount by then. I did debate getting some apples, but I'm really picky about apples. I don't like the mealy kind, so I really only like Honeycrisp apples, and those are a little more expensive. I do regret not getting at least 2 apples while I was there. This just felt overall like a really wasted trip because Food Lion did not have very good sales this week, and they were even out of their cheap sandwich bread, so I couldn't even get bread while I was there, and I couldn't go to Dollar Tree because they didn't open until 9 a.m. The other loaf of bread that they sell is like $2.50, and I wasn't about to pay that. I got really lucky though because I noticed this Jimmy Dean sausage. It was in the wrong spot. It was on clearance for $2.39 and it was a 12-ounce package, so it's around the same price as what I would pay for the same amount of sausage at Dollar Tree. So that kind of saved my trip, in my opinion. So on this day at Food Lion, I spent $6.65 just to get eggs, potatoes, and sausage. Well, that was a total bust. They had no discounts whatsoever. And the really unfortunate part of it is that it's 8 in the morning and Dollar Tree doesn't even open until 9. So unless I wanted to stay out in town for an hour, I don't have anything to eat for lunch today. I'm probably gonna have to pull from the freezer, maybe one of my burrito bowls from before, and I don't want to go back out to the store today. I've got the stuff to make the breakfast burritos. I still have the leftover pork from yesterday, but that was... I expected there to be at least some discounts, and there were none. So I am gonna stick with my Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon. I don't think this early morning is it for me. I stuck around as long as I could. I shopped around as long as I could, but early morning apparently is not the time to get discounts at my Food Lion. So as soon as I got home, I started working on a fresh batch of flour tortillas to make my breakfast burritos. So this is the same recipe as before. It's 1.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of oil, and 1/2 cup of boiling water. Once my dough was prepped and rested, I cut it into 6 pieces because I was going for 10-inch tortillas this time. And then of course I rolled them out and I cooked them the exact same way that I did in episode 3 of this series. So if you want the in-depth tortilla recipe, that is in episode 3. For the filling for my burritos, I took 6 of the small potatoes from this bag. It actually had 10 total, so I'm using 6 of them, and I'm just going to use my veggie chopper just to make quick work of cutting all of these little potatoes into bite-sized pieces. I also cut 1 onion into the same size dice, and I did the same thing with this tomato, which was about to go out, so I figured this would be a good way to use up the tomato. Once all my veggies were chopped, I started frying up my breakfast sausage that I got on markdown. I'm doing the entire package, And this did not produce a whole lot of fat, so I did add some extra oil before I added my potatoes and my onions into it as well. I seasoned this with salt and pepper, and then I covered it with a lid, and I kind of let the potatoes steam. I stirred it every 2 to 3 minutes or so until the potatoes were crispy and tender. I also cracked and scrambled 6 eggs. I could tell that this was a lot of burrito filling, so I set aside half of the sausage, potato, and onion mixture for the freezer, aka the savings account. I added my scrambled eggs and I let that cook all together, and now we are ready to assemble our burritos. So I'm using my prepared flour tortillas and dividing the burrito filling evenly between them. I also added some of my poblano salsa and some diced tomatoes before wrapping them up. And with everything that I prepped, I was able to make 6 really hefty breakfast burritos, and I still have half of the sausage, potato, and onion mixture that I can roll over into a future batch of breakfast burritos. So in total, these ingredients that I bought today for $6 would have potentially made 12 really large breakfast burritos, making them just about 50 cents a piece. The breakfast burritos turned out really good, and they do make me feel a little bit better about the wasted trip this morning, but I do need something for lunches, and I do want to take that pork loin and make barbecue sandwiches. So unfortunately, I am gonna have to go back into town. I'm gonna have to go to Dollar Tree and get what I need for lunches and for the sandwiches. So it wasn't too bad at Dollar Tree. They did have sandwich bread, but they only had wheat sandwich bread, which I'm fine with because I was going to use it to make peanut butter and jellies, and this is the only way you will see me use wheat bread is to make that. You will not see me use it to make a grilled cheese sandwich. I also was able to get a pack of hamburger buns for my pork loin sandwiches and a bottle of barbecue sauce. So what I decided I was making for lunches was a mock version of a Starbucks PB&J protein box because I already have the peanut butter and the jelly, and I also have carrots at home already. It would have been nice to include the apple slices, which is why I wish I had gotten a couple of apples at Food Lion, but otherwise I can get string cheese at Dollar Tree and I can get the chocolate covered raisins at Dollar Tree as well. I could technically get ranch at Dollar Tree too, but I didn't want to shell out the $1.25 on ranch. So here we go, a 3-pack of string cheese from Dollar Tree. And then I was also looking at their chocolate covered raisins. They had a few different types to choose from, but I ended up getting these chocolate covered pomegranates, which I just thought were so unique. And that's not something you really see at Dollar Tree very often. So at Dollar Tree, I spent $6.31. So I have all the ingredients to essentially make a Starbucks peanut butter and jelly protein box, except for the ranch and the apple slices. So if you have those ingredients, feel free to add them. But also the Starbucks protein box only comes with a half sandwich, and I'm going to be using a whole sandwich. I think I'm going to go ahead and prep this entire loaf of bread because I don't have much practical uses for wheat bread beyond peanut butter and jelly. So I'm going to make a big batch of Uncrustables because I think Uncrustables taste better, and I will stand on that hill. I will, of course, save the crusts so they won't be wasted along with the heels of the bread. But I am going to go ahead and prep. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 slices of bread. So we're going to make 7 sandwiches out of that. As you guys know, my favorite tool for spreading is a spoon, not a knife. We're going to add peanut butter to every slice of bread. I only have 9 on here right now. Now let's go down with a spoonful of strawberry preserves on half of our bread slices. Feel like I can add a little bit more, but you don't add too much because you don't want them to not be able to seal properly. And this is the kind of cutter that I have. It's a cutter and a sealer in one. But as you can see, it's not really going to cut off much of the bread because the bread is barely bigger than the cutter. And there are a lot of different versions of an Uncrustable cutter, but this is just the one that I have. I feel like other Uncrustable cutters are probably better than this one. I thought this one would be great because it seals and cuts at the same time, but it's kind of a pain. So if you're in the market for an Uncrustable cutter and you think that this one's going to be easier, it's really not. If you wanted to pack these up for the freezer, they do fit really well in just a snack bag rather than a sandwich bag because the crusts are cut off. So that is the ideal way to freeze it, put them in snack bags, and then probably put them in a large gallon-sized Ziploc freezer bag. So we got a peanut butter and jelly in each of those. These string cheeses are not perforated. You have to cut them. So I have 4 Uncrustable sandwiches that I can put in the freezer. Here's what we have going on. We have lunch for today, lunch for the next couple days, a peanut butter and jelly, and a string cheese. I'm gonna add some carrots into each of them. And I'm also gonna add some of these chocolate covered pomegranates that I got at Dollar Tree, which I think is so fun. Just distribute that between the 3 lunches as evenly as possible. It's not super full. Again, if I had an apple or something, I could add that in. Before I eat my lunch, I'm gonna go ahead and stick all of my little bread scraps into the bread bag and just stick those in the freezer. I think this would make a great French toast casserole if I can budget in some kind of syrup. Here we go. We have our lunch on day 12. So peanut butter and jelly on wheat bread. We have some carrots, a string cheese, some chocolate covered pomegranates. Again, we're trying to do this healthy. I know some of you do not consider this to be a healthy lunch, but I think it's perfectly fine lunch. I want to try one of these chocolate covered pomegranates. It's definitely more chocolate than pomegranate. I probably should have went with the chocolate covered raisins, but it's lovely. It's got a nice like tartness to it, and I like them. I just think that the raisins probably would have been bang for my buck. I'm actually really excited to try these barbecue pork loin sandwiches. I think they're gonna be great. I'm just gonna take a couple of pieces of pork loin. I'm gonna go with a couple of the smaller ones. I'm trying to make about 2 sandwiches, plus I'll probably have some pork and beans maybe on the side. But I'm gonna really thinly slice this pork loin. But again, these are kind of the smaller, these are from the ends of the pork loin, so some of these bigger chunks I definitely would be able to get 2 sandwiches out of, but these are just kind of the little tiny guys. They're much smaller. I think I'm just gonna keep it simple and reheat those in the microwave. I'm so excited. This is gonna be quite the hefty meal. So I'm just gonna add my sliced pork loin on top. Some barbecue sauce. So that is dinner on the 12th day. We have 2 pork loin sandwiches and we have some pork and beans. This might be the best meal that I have made so far this series. One thing about whenever I do this, I always have this weird, overwhelming feeling to like mix things together. So I took some of the sandwich and I actually dunked it in the pork and beans. And I have to say, it's pretty good. And that is where I leave you guys off for this episode. I know that was through day 12, but between the breakfast burritos that I meal prepped, the PB&J protein boxes that I meal prepped, and the pork loin sandwiches, I have plenty of food to get me through days 13 and 14. I always try to make sure that I include very realistic portions, and I know that those peanut butter and jelly boxes are not the biggest meal, but those breakfast burritos that I made were only about 50 cents a piece, so you can definitely double up on them. If this is something that you're following along with, have 2 breakfast burritos. 90 days for $100. Each meal needs to cost about $1 a piece. So you can definitely double up on those if you need to. Today is actually day 13 for me, and I just finished my dinner. So I'm gonna eat the exact same thing tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we get to go back to the grocery store and hopefully they have some better sales and better markdowns so that we can see what we can do for week 3. I am ending week 2 with $25 left and almost an entire week of food in my freezer. I'm very excited for week 4, and I am very excited to see how long this goes. Maybe we can even make it 4.5 weeks or even 5 weeks on $100. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I will see you again soon.